Clint Eastwood was visiting a dying crew member when hospital security demanded he move his truck. "This is VIP parking. You don't qualify." What Clint said next, and what the hospital CEO did 30 minutes later, left security terminated and became hospital training legend. It was a Tuesday afternoon in May 2018, and Clint Eastwood received a phone call he'd been dreading. James Martinez, a stunt coordinator who'd worked on 4 of Clint's films over the past 15 years, was in the hospital. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors had given him days, maybe a week at most. James's wife, Carmen, had called Clint personally to let him know and to tell him that James had been asking for him. "He keeps saying he wants to thank you one more time," Carmen said through tears, "for giving him opportunities, for treating him with respect. He talks about you constantly." Clint had worked with hundreds of people over his 60-year career, but James was special, professional, talented, and more importantly, a genuinely good person who treated everyone on set with kindness. The news of his illness had hit Clint hard, and he'd been checking in with Carmen regularly over the past few months as James's condition deteriorated. "I'll be there this afternoon," Clint told her. "Which hospital?" "Cedars-Sinai, room 412. Clint, he's weak, but he'll be so happy to see you." Clint drove from Carmel to Los Angeles, a drive he'd made thousands of times. He arrived at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center around 2:30 p.m. on a Tuesday. The hospital was busy, it always was, and the parking structure was nearly full. As he drove through looking for a space, he saw a section near the main entrance marked VIP parking, doctors and board members only. There were several empty spaces in that section. Clint knew the rules. Those spaces were supposed to be reserved, but he was visiting a dying friend who didn't have days, who might not even have hours, and he wasn't going to waste 20 minutes circling the structure looking for a regular space 3 levels down. He pulled his 1992 GMC pickup into one of the VIP spaces and headed toward the hospital entrance. He'd made it about 15 feet from his truck when he heard someone shouting, "Hey, hey, you can't park there!" Clint turned and saw a security guard jogging toward him. The guard was in his early 30s, wearing a Cedars-Sinai security uniform, and he was pointing back at Clint's truck. "That's VIP parking," the guard said as he reached Clint. "You need to move that truck right now." "I'm visiting a patient," Clint said. "I'll just be here for a short time." "I don't care how long you're here. That parking is for doctors and VIP board members only. You need to move to visitor parking." The guard's name tag read, Derek Sanders. He was 29 years old, had been working security at Cedars-Sinai for 3 years, and took his job seriously. Maybe too seriously. He saw his role as enforcing rules, maintaining order, and making sure people didn't take advantage of hospital resources. To him, an old man in an old pickup truck parking in VIP spaces was exactly the kind of rule violation he was supposed to prevent. "My friend is dying," Clint said quietly. "I just drove 2 hours to see him. I'm not taking a doctor's space. There are 4 empty spaces in that row. I'll move my truck when I leave." "Sir, I don't make the rules. VIP parking is VIP parking. If you don't move your truck right now, I'll have it towed." A few people walking past slowed down, sensing confrontation. A woman with flowers heading into the hospital stopped to watch. A man getting out of his car in a nearby space paused to see what was happening. "You're going to tow my truck while I'm inside visiting a dying friend?" Clint asked, his voice still calm but with an edge. "I'm going to tow any vehicle that's illegally parked in VIP spaces. That's my job. Now are you going to move it, or am I calling the tow company?" Clint studied Derek for a moment. He could argue, could pull rank, could explain who he was. But he was exhausted from the drive, emotionally drained from knowing what he was about to walk into, and he didn't have the energy for a parking lot confrontation with an overzealous security guard. "Fine. Call whoever you need to call. I'm going to see my friend." Clint turned and walked toward the hospital entrance. Derek, frustrated that the old man hadn't backed down, pulled out his radio. "This is Sanders in main lot. I need a tow for unauthorized parking in VIP section. 1992 GMC pickup, California plates." He gave the license plate number and was told a tow truck would be there within 20 minutes. Derek then took a photo of Clint's truck with his phone, standard procedure for documenting parking violations, and went back to his patrol. Inside the hospital, Clint made his way to room 412. James was there, in bed, looking frighteningly thin and weak. But when he saw Clint walk through the door, his face lit up with genuine joy. "Clint," James said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You came." "Of course I came," Clint said, pulling a chair next to the bed. "Carmen said you wanted to see me." For the next 30 minutes, Clint sat with James and Carmen. They talked about the films they'd worked on together, the stunts that had gone perfectly, and the ones that had required multiple takes, the long days on set and the satisfaction of getting a difficult scene right. James was in pain, struggling to breathe, but he was present and engaged. "Thank you," James said at one point, gripping Clint's hand weakly, "for everything, for the work, for the respect, for treating me like I mattered." "You did matter," Clint said. "You do matter. You made my films better. You made the sets better. You're a good man, James." James smiled, tears in his eyes, and squeezed Clint's hand. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. Dr. Sarah Chen, James's oncologist, stepped in. She'd been checking on James every few hours, managing his pain medication and monitoring his condition. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Dr. Chen said. "James, how are you feeling? Do you need anything for pain?" "I'm okay," James said. "Dr. Chen, this is my friend Clint Eastwood. He directed some of the films I worked on." Dr. Chen looked at Clint and her eyes widened slightly. She recognized him immediately. "Mr. Eastwood, it's an honor. James talks about you all the time." They talked for a few more minutes, Dr. Chen checking James's vitals, adjusting his medication, making sure he was comfortable. As she was about to leave, her phone rang. She looked at the caller ID. It was the main hospital security office, and answered. "Dr. Chen." She listened for a moment, and her expression changed from professional to confused to angry. "Wait, say that again. Security called a tow truck for what? For a truck parked in VIP parking, and the owner is where?" She listened more. "The owner is visiting a terminal patient in my care, and security threatened to tow his vehicle." She looked at Clint. "Mr. Eastwood, did you park in the VIP section?" "I did," Clint said. "Your security guard told me he'd have my truck towed. I told him I was visiting a dying friend. He said he didn't care." Dr. Chen's face went red. "He said he didn't care that you were visiting a dying patient?" His exact words were, "I don't care how long you're here. That parking is for doctors and VIP board members only." Dr. Chen spoke into her phone. "Do not tow that vehicle. Cancel the tow truck immediately. And tell security I want whoever made that call to meet me in the administrator's office in 10 minutes. She hung up. "Mr. Eastwood, I am so sorry. That should never have happened. Our VIP parking policy exists to ensure doctors can park close during emergencies, but it's never been intended to prevent family or friends from visiting terminal patients." "It's fine," Clint said. "I just wanted to see James." But Dr. Chen wasn't fine with it. After ensuring James was comfortable, she left the room and immediately called the hospital CEO, Michelle Torres. Michelle Torres had been CEO of Cedars-Sinai for 6 years. She ran one of the best hospitals in America, and she was fiercely protective of both the hospital's reputation and its core mission, patient care above all else. When Dr. Chen called and explained what had happened, Michelle's response was immediate. "I'm coming down there. Get security to my office, now." 15 minutes later, in the hospital administrator's office, Derek Sanders stood nervously as Michelle Torres and Dr. Chen entered. Also present was the hospital's head of security, Robert Williams, who'd been called in to explain what had happened. "Mr. Sanders," Michelle said, her voice cold and controlled, "tell me what happened in the parking lot." Derek explained he'd seen an old pickup truck park in VIP spaces, had confronted the driver, had been told the driver was visiting a patient, and had called for a tow truck because the rules were clear: VIP parking for doctors and board members only. "And when the driver told you he was visiting a dying patient?" Michelle asked. "I told him the parking rules still applied. I told him to move to visitor parking." "And when he said his friend was dying?" "I said I didn't care how long he was here. Rules are rules." Michelle looked at Robert Williams. "Robert, is that how we train our security staff? To tell visitors they don't care when someone says they're visiting a dying patient?" Robert looked uncomfortable. "No, ma'am. Our policy is to be compassionate while enforcing necessary rules. Saying, 'I don't care' to someone visiting a terminal patient is not acceptable. And calling a tow truck while that visitor is inside saying goodbye to someone who might die today? Also not acceptable. Michelle turned back to Derek. Mr. Sanders, do you know who you threatened to tow? An old man in a pickup truck who was parked illegally. That old man is Clint Eastwood. He drove 2 hours from Carmel to visit James Martinez, a crew member from his films who has stage 4 pancreatic cancer and is expected to die within days. Mr. Eastwood parked in one of 4 empty VIP spaces because his friend is dying and he didn't want to waste time. You told him you didn't care. You called a tow truck. You prioritized a parking space over human compassion. Derek's face went pale. I was following the parking policy. You were following the letter of a policy while violating the spirit of everything this hospital stands for, Michelle said. We're a hospital. Our purpose is to care for patients and support their families. We don't threaten to tow vehicles while people are inside saying goodbye to dying loved ones. We don't tell visitors we don't care about their circumstances. We don't value parking spaces over human dignity. She looked at Robert. I want Mr. Sanders removed from duty immediately, and I want our entire security team retrained on what compassion looks like in a hospital setting. Robert nodded. I'll handle it. Derek tried to speak. Mrs. Torres, I was just doing my job. You were doing what you thought your job was, but your job isn't just enforcing parking rules. Your job is to serve our patients, their families, and the people who care for them. You failed to do that today. You're terminated, effective immediately. Derek left the office in shock. His shift had started as a normal Tuesday afternoon, and it was ending with him fired for enforcing a parking policy. Michelle wasn't done. She immediately drafted an email to all hospital staff. Today, a valued visitor to our hospital, someone visiting a terminal patient in hospice care, was threatened with vehicle towing while inside saying goodbye to a dying friend. This visitor was told by security that they didn't care about the circumstances. This is unacceptable and does not reflect our values as a hospital. Effective immediately, VIP parking spaces may be used by anyone visiting terminal patients when regular visitor parking is full or when time is critical. Security staff will exercise compassion and common sense in enforcing all policies. Any staff member who tells a patient or visitor, I don't care about their circumstances, will face immediate disciplinary action. Our mission is patient care. That includes caring for the emotional needs of families, saying goodbye to loved ones. No parking space is more important than that. The email went out to all 4,500 staff members. Within an hour, the story had spread through the hospital. Within a day, it had reached medical administrator circles in Los Angeles. Within a week, it was being discussed in hospital management courses. Clint spent 2 hours with James that afternoon. When he finally left, his truck was still in the VIP space, untowed, with a handwritten note under the windshield wiper from Dr. Chen. Please park here whenever you visit. Thank you for being here for James. Dr. Sarah Chen. James Martinez passed away 3 days later. Clint attended the funeral, spoke at the service, and helped Carmen with expenses. The last conversation they'd had, the one Derek Sanders had almost prevented with a tow truck, became precious to Carmen in the days after James died. Derek Sanders filed for unemployment and eventually found work as a security guard at a shopping mall. He tells the story differently now, not as, I was just enforcing the rules, but as, I learned that rules without compassion aren't rules worth enforcing. Cedars-Sinai's parking policy was permanently revised. VIP spaces are still primarily for doctors and board members, but there's now explicit language. These spaces may be used by visitors to terminal patients when necessary. Compassion and common sense should guide all parking enforcement. The story became a training case at hospitals nationwide. The Clint Eastwood parking incident, when following rules means forgetting purpose. If this story of hospital bureaucracy meeting human compassion, of security rules versus dying wishes, and of how one parking confrontation changed hospital policy across America moved you, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. Share this with anyone in healthcare, anyone who's said goodbye to a dying loved one, or anyone who needs to learn that rules exist to serve people, not the other way around. Have you experienced hospital staff showing extraordinary compassion during a difficult time? Share your story in the comments, and don't forget to ring that notification bell for more incredible true stories about humanity over policy.